It was supposed to be a fun birthday party. No one imagined it would end in tragedy. Two young parents had decorated the house. They set a full table of dishes and treats and filled the room with balloons. They were celebrating their child's first birthday. Guests arrived, the music was on, and the party began. After eating, they moved to games. One guest took a helium balloon, inhaled, and spoke in a thin, funny voice, an old party trick. Everyone laughed. Then the husband had a spontaneous idea. There was a helium tank on the table, the one the family had rented to fill the balloons. He walked over and inhaled helium straight from it. He spoke in a funny voice, and once again, everyone laughed. Then it was the wife's turn to try it. She put her lips on the opening and pressed the handle, but there was a problem. Before doing that, she increased the flow of gas. A rush of helium shot into her mouth. She jumped back in shock and collapsed on the floor. Family and friends panicked. They called an ambulance and tried to revive her, but nothing worked. The 20-year-old woman passed away. Helium isn't toxic, but a hard blast from a tank pushes oxygen out of your lungs. With no oxygen, the brain blacks out in seconds and the heart can stop. The coroner ruled hypoxia and urged clearer warnings on party canisters. A rooster, armed with a blade strapped to its body, steps into the center of room. In front of it, another bird, steel attached on its side. The crowd leans forward, bets are placed, voices rise. The fight to the death is about to begin. This is rooster fight, a centuries-old brutal sport, still practiced in the Philippines, drawing gamblers and spectators eager for violence. But this match was different. It was an illegal gathering, held in defiance of coronavirus restrictions. As the birds clashed, the crowd suddenly froze. Someone shouted, "Police!" Chaos erupted as officers poured into the arena. Spectators scattered. Birds flapped wildly inside their cages. One of the officers leading the raid moved to seize a rooster as evidence. In an instant, the blade strapped to the animal's leg slashed across his thigh, severing his femoral artery. A wound few survive. His colleagues rushed him to a hospital, but the bleeding was unstoppable. He died on the way. What began as a raid to stop an illegal event ended in a tragedy no one could have predicted. A Red Arrow's pilot climbed into a Hawk jet for a routine training flight. He strapped in, lowered his visor, and ran through pre-flight checks while the aircraft sat on the ground with its engines running. Ground crew moved around the jet. The cockpit was closed. He reached for the next items on the checklist. Then, completely unexpectedly, the seat fired. The canopy shattered and the ejection seat launched him into the air, around 200 feet. As he fell, the main parachute did not open. He hit the ground, still strapped to the seat. Medics flew him to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Investigators later found that during pre-flight, the ejection handle safety pin had been reinserted incorrectly. When it was moved, the system triggered, launching the seat while the jet was on the ground. The parachute did not deploy because of a separate technical failure. It was April Fool's Day. An 18-year-old student was about to call his friend for a chat. Then he got an idea. He found a rope and a chair, tied a loop, and placed it around his neck. He fixed the other end to the ceiling. The plan was simple. When his friend answered the video call, he would play dead. It was supposed to be a prank, but as he was making the call, something went wrong. The stool slipped. He dropped. The noose tightened. A little later, his brother opened the door and found him. Police said it was a prank that turned fatal, death by hanging from asphyxia. A 56-year-old man packed his fishing gear and went out in a small boat. The water was calm. Tiny fish flashed at the surface. He stood in his boat with a fishing rod in his hands, enjoying the moment. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, a giant Spanish mackerel burst from the water and hit him hard in the left side of his body. His chest and stomach were hurt badly. As minutes passed, he felt worse and worse. Within an hour, he collapsed and never got back up. An autopsy confirmed the death was due to blunt force chest and abdominal trauma, including fractured ribs, a ruptured diaphragm, and other internal injuries. Later, investigators weighed the fish. It was about 20 kilograms. A small group celebrated New Year in a house in a rural area. People ate, had drinks, and talked about plans for the year ahead. No one suspected what kind of tragedy was about to happen in a few minutes. Midnight approached, everyone grabbed champagne and walked outside. Fireworks lit the sky. The group cheered and congratulated each other. To make things more exciting, a 62-year-old man brought out his rifle AR-15. He decided to fire a few shots for fun, but instead of shooting into the sky, he pointed the rifle toward the nearby woods and opened fire, about 24 rounds. At that moment, 2 guests from the same party were at the tree line, lighting fireworks. He was firing in their direction without realizing it. One man fell at once, struck in the head. The other turned and stumbled as rounds hit his back. People started shouting. Someone called 911. Deputies and medics arrived. One man was pronounced dead at the property. The other was taken to a hospital and passed away there. The shooter was arrested at the scene for reckless discharge of a firearm. He received jail sentence. This mini-documentary was made with respect for the people in these stories. It is not meant to mock or sensationalize. The aim is to remind us how fragile our lives are and to stay cautious in everyday moments.